First, my name is Mokry, and I'm an electrical engineer. I graduated with an electrical engineering degree from University of Illinois back in '76. So I've been in the industry for quite some time. I'm in the semiconductor electronics industry, and I've been in that industry for about 30, 35 years almost. When I graduated from college, I had an offer to come out here to California to work at National Semiconductor. This is quite some time ago, so it was a pretty new, upcoming company no one really knew too much about. And so I've worked in maybe 5 or 6 different disciplines in the engineering semiconductor industry, design engineering, wafer fabrication engineering, test engineering, product engineering. Don't really use that much. I'm on LinkedIn, I guess it's called. Or, yeah, and I just look at that briefly. Don't really use it very much. Over time, the industry, the semiconductor industry has changed a lot since I've been here. I kind of came here when I first started, and where I'm at right now is about 85% of the stuff we used to do here has been moved offshore. Well, engineers in general are pretty open people. They like to help each other. It's just kind of the nature of the personality. But yeah, as you start to work with engineers from different companies, then you need to always be aware that confidentiality is important, because competitiveness is a big thing right now. So sometimes when you're not sure where to draw the line, and you know you have a conversation coming up, you'll speak with your upper management maybe and just asking for some guidance, what kinds of things can be talked about and what kinds of things shouldn't be talked about. Because if you don't talk about certain things that need to be talked about, then you may not solve the problem that you're originally talking to them about. So it's a little bit of a fine line where you usually ask for guidance from upper management. This is what will be okay for us to disclose and what won't be okay. We're in a global economy now. And so the communications that I do are mostly just over the phone. We call up Malaysia, China, have weekly talks with their engineers there. So when we communicate, it isn't really through software media, if you will. It's mostly just telephone. And if that call is a little bit, it doesn't really address what I wanted to address, or solve what I wanted to address, then I come back to our internal groups, that my company here, and tell them my situation and ask them to communicate more directly with the engineers over there to fix what I want to fix. Because there's probably two different areas that it happens with most. It's either a test or assembly. This is my line of work. And so I've got those 2 groups here within my company that I could have talk with offshore. If it's not going the way that I think it should be going. They can get back to you, but there's a language barrier to some extent, and you could describe something very clearly to them, but they may not understand really what you're talking about. And not only the language, but the culture is such that that they can't say no. They always want to seem like they're doing, what you want them to do. And so, which is kind of interesting. What I've learned over time is when you talk with people offshore and you ask them questions, you don't want to ask them a question that results in a yes/no answer, because they'll say yes 100% of the time. So you want to ask them a question where, in order for them to answer it correctly, they need to describe the problem. They need to describe not only the problem, but understanding of the problem. So what I've learned is there's an art, so to speak, to talking with people from different cultures, which is something, very interesting subject. We do some development there, maybe. with guidelines, like I said, you know, so long as you know what the boundaries are, then you feel comfortable within those boundaries, you know, talking within those boundaries, and that allows for spontaneity, for development, which is the whole purpose of the conversation, you know, problem solving, the whole purpose of the conversation to begin with. So if you know what the boundaries are, then you don't have to worry about that. You can just kind of continue on. So I think, yeah, having guidance is really important. I think so. I think it's got the potential for that. And I think where it could streamline it more is, well, to get people to use it. And not only, you know, people in one location, but people in another location that you'd be dealing with. And rather than trying to, like Bob was describing earlier, get, you know, different groups within my company, talking to different groups in another company and trying to get us to talk about the same thing and solve the same thing. What this synergy would be convenient for is providing a platform, if you will, where it wouldn't be set up so just one company uses it, other companies could use it. So we could, you know, get our company and the companies that we work with offshore on the same page, if you will, the same web page.
Exactly.
Talking about the same issues and kind of putting information in there real time and getting replies back in real time. Because you have to think too, when you work with companies in different locations of the world, there's time. I mean, they could be 12 hours ahead, 14 hours ahead. So, you know, they ask them a question today, you won't get an answer till tomorrow, maybe. Even though they're, you know, working on it first thing in the morning when they come in. And that's just because of the way we call, the way we're structured now. But if something like this were to be out there, it would most likely, when people use it, it would most likely enable quicker, real-time responses. So I see a good benefit for something like this.
You'd be willing to contribute to something like this?
I think so, sure.
So if you had guidance and you preserve the confidentiality, something like Synergy could still possibly work, like between you and another company, if you kept your everything confidential, your company name, everything like that, something like this platform would still be able to prosper, you think?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.